I'll good. You got that?
Yeah, sorry.
Great. So I'm gonna share my screen. Cool. Yeah. Well, as Mari said, I'm a data scientist. I did electrical engineering. I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I'm based here. And for, I don't know, I guess for the last 10 years or so, I've been trying to put together different tools of data science so they are easier to use for people with different backgrounds, not necessarily programmers. And in this process, I saw that using Shiny apps was really helpful in the sense that we could, through a web browser, allow non-programmers to do data analysis, data visualizations. And so that's basically our inspiration or motivation to work on these things. And like one of my concerns initially was that I was seeing a lot of shiny apps, but they all look the same. And so it's kind of frustrating as an end user to not use beautiful things, you know. So I started digging and learning about how we could personalize the shiny apps in a way that they will be more friendly, or they could be adaptable to the different projects that we're building. And so that's what we are gonna talk about today. Great. So we wanna. I'm gonna show a quick intro with some examples of things that we've built in the past, and so maybe we can get some ideas on what we could do and some questions, or make you ask some questions about what's possible and how we can do it. Then we can talk about how to personalize the shiny apps and some coding and some tips and tricks at the end. Cool. So as I was mentioning, uh, I yeah I founded this organization. We're a small company in Colombia, and we are trying to allow non-coders to explore and analyze data. So we work with, I don't know, sociologists, anthropologists, or any type of users, so they can leverage their data. And we do that because we see that there is a lack of there will always be a lack of data scientists to cover the demand of all those organizations that cannot afford data scientists, in-house data scientists, and that's usually small organizations in developing countries. And so that's we want to try to build tools to help those organizations. So I'm going to show you about a couple of examples of some shiny apps we've built. This one about political campaign financing. Let me just open the link here. Yeah. So this is a project we built with Transparency International in Colombia, and this is basically a shiny app where users can explore different corruption incidents, like historical corruption incidents in the country, where they can explore if these corruption incidents have been more about administrative issues or education or health or whatever. Then they get to browse different questions, specific questions they want to know, and answer with different types of charts, different questions about how corruption has evolved in the country. And this is a shiny app that's running on the back with different types of visualizations, and you can make a bunch of filters. And even it features network visualizations of the people and the organizations that have been involved in corruption incidents that have been sanctioned by some authority. And this is quite a personalized shiny app. Like in here, you see a bunch of different interactive charts. This that you see here is like a like I've lost the word. If anyone speaks Spanish, ficha, that will be, but that will be in English, like a brochure. I don't know. Anyway, so this is like a standard HTML, but if you click here, you basically download a PDF with the very same information that comes from a web service. And it's basically running a neater report on the back that shows the very same information, right? So basically it runs a neater report on the back that renders on the fly and allow you to download PDFs and features a bunch of different data visualizations. So this is one example. This is another one for those political scientists around here. This is an interface to like a lot of the examples, or I guess all of the examples I'm going to show are in Spanish. So I guess you get the idea, but if you have any questions, please just drop a comment on the chat. So here you can make a search. You can just search by name, and it will output a list of different candidates for local elections and president and Congress elections in Colombia for the past few years. And in here you see a candidate. You see a candidate and you see who financed his political campaign. So once you click on the different, I guess I should reload the page. Okay, you see some recommendations in here. Okay, let's go with this one. And then you see who financed whom, when how much they spent, like in the political donations, and you see whether they have contracts with the government or not. So like this person financed this candidate for 50,000 pesos, which is like $20, but then she got contracts with the government for around $150,000. And this is the other candidates that she financed, and you can browse them here. And then you see all the contracts that this person who financed this candidate gets with the government. So as you can see, this is a highly personalized Shiny app. You get a bunch of filters, different visualization types, nested filters. Like if I click here, you see like this is a network representation of who financed whom and whether they got contracts with the government. Okay, let's see another example. Yeah, violencia machista. I didn't translate that on purpose because I guess it's very explanatory, self-explanatory. It's in Argentina. They built this massive survey, like online survey, about trying to measure like macho violence against women from many different angles, not only physical violence, but like obstructive violence, economic violence, and so forth. And we replicated this survey in Colombia, but we also built this like interactive report where women told those different stories or violence against them, and how, you know, with different illustrations, so forth. I mean, this webpage is just a regular webpage, but it has some Shiny apps embedded. Like here, it seems like it doesn't look like a Shiny app, but it is a Shiny app. So say this is like a survey. Okay, it says hello. You can compare yourself here with other Colombian women who filled out our survey. And then has anyone said anything inappropriate in public where you felt offended? Yes or no? Yes. If yes, then just like you, there are like 90% of women just like you, but also 50% of those women were shown the genitals without their permission in public, and a bunch of different questions that, you know, make you contrast the reality of that women face. Or has anyone touched you like in public transportation inappropriately? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, just like you, a lot of women go through this, but also 90% of them have never filed a complaint or anything to the police or something. And so this is like a Shiny app that's interacting in the back with a Sorby platform, and it's pulling the data and live from this Sorby and showing this data in a like a simple way that you can browse fast. Then we have you probably, if you've used Shiny before, you've probably seen this a lot. This is the disconnected from server thing. This is the Shiny app to explore the results of this survey. And then different types of charts and filters and things that appear when you click on something. More filters, like in Bogota, all the answers from women in Bogota and so forth. Cool. And one last example, I helped the Colombian agency in charge of organizing the data about the armed conflict in Colombia. I helped them with different algorithms and visualizations to analyze and understand the history of the Colombian conflict. And we ended up with this no, I think they changed the link. Cannot find it anymore. Okay, I won't be able to present it today. They changed the navigation here. Yep, sorry. Okay, but anyway, you see here a snapshot, a screenshot, and it's basically different types of violence, and you get to click in different regions in the country, and you get like an animation of how like massacres have evolved over the 60 years of the Colombian conflict, or kidnappings, or mass killings, or so forth. Great. So yeah, from the examples I've shown you, you probably see that we work a lot with social organizations, so we can. I mean, they usually kind of data scientists, so we try to help them with the different tools that we're building. And this is one of the tools that I founded in the organization that I lead, and it's Data Sketch. If you go to datasketch.co, you can get to see our tools and try them and help us improve them if you want. So yeah, when you create a user, then you get like a dashboard kind of thing where you can have like visualizations that you save or data that you want to share with other users. And these are the visualizations that are done with Shiny apps. So let's explore the kind of apps that we have. Like if you want to make a word cloud, you can do it with one of those Shiny apps, or you want to make a Sankey diagram or a map of the world, whatever. And then, as you can see, these are just simply Shiny apps, but they are personalized with different layouts and different options that are rather, or let's say, not as standard. So you can like upload texts and just copy paste texts, and you have different options here, like different controls. Okay, the number of words that you want to show, and you see this is a different type of control if you use numeric inputs. So if you're familiar with Shiny, it's easier to click because you get the numeric inputs like the plus and minus in the usual Shiny inputs, like very small, and you cannot click them. So we built this one that's easier for users. Yeah, remove words, and yeah, you get the idea. Then you get to download the results, and yeah, any type of chart you can make here, like Sankey's, or probably any visualization library that you have seen around in R. We are slowly incorporating it in our platform, and you can use that by selecting some sample data or copy pasting data and so forth. And you see here, like we have a data preview of the data that's being uploaded. This is a custom component to render tables that also happens to be an input. Like I can change this right here and get the data updated, different selectors, and just, yeah. some selection of colors. Sorry, but I get confused with these zoom controls. Okay. Then you can have a custom palette and select some colors. This is a custom color chooser that we built. Right? And this is all happening within a Shiny app. Same for maps, a lot of different options. You get to edit the data, upload it, titles. And then you get the result and you can download it right here and see it in your browser. So in the process of building this thing, we've learned a lot on how we can customize Shiny apps. And this is what we are going to talk about today. Cool. Any questions? Comments? Anyone? This is, yeah, same for making any type of like simple charts or regular charts. In here, you get like recommendations of visualizations that work with this type of data that you have uploaded. So you see here, there are a bunch of different custom controls. Like this is if you used Shiny before, you probably have seen the select input where you like something like this, like a selector. But this is the same functionality, but you can add icons to it. Cool. So I guess you get the idea. Let's go back to our slides. And yeah, basically, this is what we're building. We believe it makes sense to have open source data visualization as a service. It features data recommendation engine that you saw. Like if you change the data, you get automatic data visualization recommendations. And then at the end, these are all personalized Shiny apps. Great. I saw, yeah, I showed you a couple of the controls that we're doing, like specific inputs or some Shiny inputs, some a different layout. And so we need a lot of personalization, as I mentioned. And from what we've seen, what are some ways that you think we can personalize Shiny apps? I already mentioned a few. Do you have any ideas? You can just put them on the chat. Okay, just throwing some ideas. You can change colors, layout, fonts. What else would you like to personalize or adapt more easily in a Shiny app? Branding, exactly, like custom color palettes or something. What else? Like download formats, it's something that is very, I've seen it, it's like a recurrent feature request. Okay, if you have more ideas, just put them on the chat. And let's talk about how we can personalize Shiny apps. Great, there are like 4 things that I guess it will make sense. One is the layout. Maybe you can change fonts and colors and like the general appearance. Then you may want to personalize the interactions or how people interact with the Shiny apps. And I left this here, but just like a quick note, but you may want to change the language and in the apps that you're using. Let me show you one example of this quickly. So this is a Shiny app we recently built for an independent news organization that works on crime networks in Latin America. And then you can see different crime organizations that are in Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, and Central America. And what's interesting about this is that I will get to show you finally an example of an app in your language. So using this, like lang equals n, we are able to change the language of the app, and this is using also one of our packages that's called Shiny Internationalization. In case you are interested in exploring it more. Cool. Let's continue. So if we wanna tweak the layout, we definitely have to do some HTML. I mean, in general, if we wanna personalize apps, all we need to do is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So with all these three things, this is all what we're gonna talk about today. Okay, so if we want to create a custom layout, you saw like a bunch of different layouts, like with columns, with collapsible panels, and there are a bunch of out-of-the-box layouts that we can try. You probably seen those in the Shiny tutorials. Yeah. You have multiple ways to arrange your Shiny apps, or maybe you have used some of the packages that enhance the layout of the Shiny apps, like Shiny Dashboard is one of them. Like you can build apps that look more like a dashboard. It's very interesting because these kind of applications are, I guess, I've seen a lot being implemented. Like there are a lot of COVID dashboards that were built with Shiny around. There are many even cities that are building their open data visualization portals using Shiny, which is very interesting. Then, okay, if we want to make custom layouts, we need to learn a bit about HTML and divs and these kind of things. Then we can personalize with CSS. Then if we want to go a step further, we will make JavaScript. We'll have to use JavaScript to make some interactions. I'll show you how we can get started with those. And in JavaScript, you have a bunch of different options, right? So basic interaction, you can use it doing our packages, an R package that's called Shiny.js, I will talk about later. Then we will close with a brief comment on creating custom Shiny inputs, like the ones I show you for the custom color palettes or the custom numbers or those kind of things. And one thing that's usually overlooked is how we can use HTML widgets also for adding interactivity to Shiny apps, not only for visualization, but also for getting user inputs. Cool. Let's start then with custom layouts. How many of you are familiar with Shiny in general? Like using Shiny, you can just put something on the chat, or I want to have a feeling of how many of you are familiar, or how familiar are you with this, so I can, yeah, to see how basic should I speak or how advanced. Okay, a bit of JavaScript. Okay, plots and buttons, introduction. Okay. Okay, so I guess, cool. Great, thanks. Cool, so I guess we can start with writing some HTML directly into R. That's like the first step if you want to build custom Shiny apps. Then we can talk about a bit, talk a bit about Bootstrap, which is the framework that Shiny uses by default for the styles and the interactions. then some inspiration of the things we could build, and I will talk briefly about how you can build your own package, so you can have like a package with your custom layout. All right, let's go. This is some. This is the same project. It's on the GitHub. Sorry, I didn't have time to actually finish on time and make a push before the event, but I will push right after. So we have access to the same code. So let's talk about layout. Cool. Let's make a Shiny app. Please do let me know if you find this kind of boring that I'm typing and coding at the same time, but you can always look at the end result if you are getting bored. Okay, remember we have we need to declare I think this is the first time I code and talk at the same time. I don't think I can do it very easily. Okay, let's have a I always forget what's the exact command here. I think it's shiny app. Cool. Once we have this thing, we get the play button here, and we got an app, hopefully. Cool. It says hello. Let's open this in our browser. Are you seeing my screen? Yeah. Okay. Do you know about, have you seen this like developer console in the browser before? Have you all? I mean, and you can, I think you can just right click and then inspect element or something, and then you get this thing. You can also command control I or something like that. And you get this developer console. And in here, you see the HTML that the Shiny app is generating. So maybe you can just look at the page source right here. So we have some HTML with meta information, some scripts. Look at the scripts here. Some jQuery loads by default, which is like yeah, like a kind of universal library for doing interactivity with JavaScript. And then we see a lot of Bootstrap, which is what I mentioned before. That's a framework developed by Twitter to easily build interfaces or web interfaces. I guess this is the it's very useful to build responsive sites. Okay, and then you get all these icons and all these things that you probably seen a lot around in the web. Okay, let's see what else is here. We see a body, you see a class container something, and you see our hello, right? So this is what the Shiny app is doing. We can basically add any HTML that we want here. I don't know, maybe if we can add a div and then a paragraph. Maybe we can add a subtitle, right? And we can also add an image. You've probably seen this in the documentation. What's the, I always forget. placeholder images. Okay, you can have like some example image here. Reload our app. And this is what we get, right? Let's go back to the browser. And we see the structure of the HTML. We have a title, then we have a paragraph, a subtitle, and an image. And in here, we see that the structure of the page is just what we wanted, like a div, which inside has some, a paragraph and a subtitle, right? And outside, we have an image. So basically, we can edit this however we want. Like we can select the div, and maybe we can go here to the element and go with background color. We can change that to blue. And you see that now we have a, I don't know if you can actually see it. Let me try again. You see that it automatically creates these things in the text. The style equals background color. Let's go something brighter, red. And now we have an app that has a custom color in here. You see that the browser automatically adds this thing here, like style background color red. So we can actually just simply copy paste this thing and pass it as a parameter in the app directly. So and let's see what happens. We reload our app and we have it right here, just as we did in the browser. So we can have a lot of different layouts here. We can have, by default, Shiny has like rows. We can have, uses this thing like fluid row to request rows from Shiny. From Bootstrap. Bootstrap allows you to have columns and rows and different things. So this is how you add rows to an app. And this is how you add columns, like column. By default, Bootstrap uses a 12 width or a 12 grid layout. Basically, it has a size of 12, so we can have a column that spans a space that spans 3 columns. And we can add also another one that spans 9 columns. And we can have a bigger image here. We reload our app. And then in here, we see that now we have a layout with a row, and then we have 2 columns, right? So if you have any questions at any point, please drop them on the chat. And but now you know how we can create custom layouts. I mean, if anything, you can put anything in columns and rows, and then you get and you can build like basically any layout you want. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. Where am I? Okay. Cool. I talk a bit about Output Bootstrap and then CodePen. CodePen is a place where people share different HTML snippets. So maybe if you Google like CodePen layout, then we get some interesting things that people have built using some layouts like CSS layout, like this Pinterest kind of thing. Then we can have a layout like this, or a newspaper, whatever. So let's try to replicate one of those. I previously did the query and got interested in that. Where is it? Yeah, in this Instagram kind of layout. So let's go and grab the URL. And this is how we actually develop the snippets. We basically, okay, it's loading here. Yep. Basically, you have some HTML, some CSS, and some JavaScript. And in here, we are lucky we don't need any JavaScript. So it has like a div, like a container with some class, then some item with a class, an item with a class. Like it's like the contents of the HTML are rather simple. And then we have some CSS right here. Cool. So let's see another example. The other one from the newspaper that I saw. Yep. Here. Okay. This is like a kind of a layout for a newspaper. And then in the HTML, we have like an article, a div, and section, and so forth. So let's start with transforming this, what we had before, into this. So we see here some tags that we are probably usually not used to use when we follow the usual Shiny Apps tutorials. Like this is an article Shiny App, sorry, an article tag of HTML tag, and then this is a section tag. And to include different tags, we can use, I mean, sometimes they are exported, like, no, I don't think so. So we can always use tags, like a list. And then we see here a bunch of all the different HTML tags that we can use. So we can use this about article or quotes or something. So let's go with a quote. And this is some text of a quote. We run this. And we get like the quotes you probably seen in the documentation of the different web pages or even of our packages. Cool. So basically, all we need to do is to write the HTML as we see it here, but using the HTML that we see in our. I'm gonna create a new script. And we can just build the HTML just the way we see it. So in here we see an article, and this article contains an H1, which is a title, then some div, and then some section, right? And inside the section you have some other content, like, I mean, you see this is nested, right? So the article contains all of these things that's in the middle, right? So we need to make our article contain everything in the middle. So we just put it inside the parentheses. Okay, article, then we can just create a div with a class time, just as we did before by adding in here the style to the div. We can also add a class directly to the div. So let's go div class equals time. And then we have some time tag that we can put inside the div. So if we don't find it here, yeah, it is, but let's just make sure and use the tags argument, and then this is some date. All right, as of now, any questions? And then we have a section, and now you get the idea of the things we need to do, okay? And once we do this, we also need to make sure we add our CSS. So there's something here. We can just copy paste this thing. And if you don't know how to add a CSS to a Shiny app, it's very easy. Just Google it. I always forget how to do it. So let's go CSS in Shiny app. That's a first hit. And there are a couple of different options. We can give like an inline CSS, as we did with the div before that we put in red. And we can use the
themes that come by default with Shiny. Then we can add the CSS to a header. So maybe we can just simply add here this thing, like the tag head, as we saw in the code before. Like here, we can append to the head anything we want. So basically, we can add some styles here. So let's do this for this app. We run this. And we get, you see that we have some date. That's because that's the only thing we have here in our text. But let's see if the tags, if the HTML tag got appended properly. You see, yeah, it's here. You see that now we have some style tag that has the things that we put in there. So let's just tweak that CSS. So we can actually everything with a tag time, which is the only text we have. And now we got some nice text with different with a personal font and some color and so forth. Good. So let's see how it. I did this before. I wrote like the whole thing. Right here, it's gonna be on the repo. And I include the other way to include custom CSS is if you include like this line, include CSS, and then you have in your folder, you have a file called newspaper CSS, which is basically the very same thing that you see here, right? Good. So if I run this, you see that it looks almost like this thing. We have some things with the 3-column layout that we need to fix, but we're getting there. We have a Shiny app that looks very different and very nice. Let's look at the other example. The Pinterest app, same thing. I came here. I just used, this copy paste this into here, like div class item, some class, like just like I showed you, we could do. And then in here we have a CSS, but unfortunately you see here that this is this has some parentheses here. It's SCSS, which is something weird that needs pre-compiling. So we get to so we can use only clean CSS in our Shiny apps. So if we want to use these kind of things, we need to convert it and post-process it or compile it into regular CSS. So we can just go here and we can just Google a CSS to CSS. And we get some online converter. We paste some data and convert it to CSS. And we just copy paste this into our app. And this is what we have here. Just painted the styles right here. Masonry, some media screen. I just copy paste the whole thing. I didn't do anything else. And then I run this. And now I have a Shiny app that has a nice layout like a Pinterest kind of thing, right? Cool. The reason the other Shiny app about with the newspaper didn't work is this, basically. That every time that I work with CSS, I feel like this, like Peter Griffin. Just I don't really know CSS. What I've learned is just like by trying testing things. So this is pretty much how I feel when every time I try to personalize a Shiny app.
with all those nice features. But it's interesting, and you now know that you can do a lot of things. Okay, I guess. Okay, let's go quickly over the CSS part, and then at the end we go with the JavaScript. Cool. Okay, let's close this thing. Questions, comments? Quiet audience.
Would now be a good time for you to take a break, JP?
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And we can come back in like 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure, let's return at 7:05. Let's get something to eat or use the restroom, and we'll come right back.
All right. I'll be here on the chat if you guys have any questions.
All right, so we were about to talk about CSS, but I was forgetting to have to show you quickly how you can build packages with your custom layout. So this is the package to build the kind of apps that I showed you before that have this kind of panels, collapsible panels. Sorry, it's not that well documented yet, but I just wanted to show you how we can create the layout of any app. So just as you would use a fluid page or a basic page with a Shiny app or a regular Shiny app, like this. Yeah, like any Shiny app that you would use, we have this like a layout. We can build a function that creates a new layout for us. We have to add some HTML dependencies, and then some assets, some JavaScript, and so forth. But what I wanted to show you is that our page is basically whatever we defined we want to have in our HTML. We have a head, then we have a div, then we have another div, and so forth. Like in Bootstrap of the usual the Shiny apps, like the regular Shiny apps, you see that Bootstrap is always in there, and we saw it here. You have Bootstrap, and then you have some Shiny code, and then you always get a body, and you usually have like a div that has this tag, this class container fluid, and then inside you have everything you put. So sometimes when you when you create your own layout, you don't really want to have things inside a div, but rather directly into the body or different layouts, and that's why you will at some point you may want to create your own package for creating your app layout. So this is how you will use in general, like the HTML skeleton of whatever goes inside the Shiny app. This is how you will create it, and then you can add small things like an info tooltip where you can just put your own HTML as you wish, and then you can pass things like a title and an info or something directly to the function. And then you can have like a box or whichever kind of thing, which is nothing else than a div with some class that you can add to your things, and then we'll create like any type of HTML component that you want, like UI component. Okay, so let's go back to Shiny. Let's take a look at our app. This is, let's go with this app. This is the app from the Shiny tutorial. I just copy pasted this thing. You have fluid page, histogram. You probably, if you ever seen the Shiny tutorial, you've seen this app. And what I want to emphasize is that sometimes
all you need is CSS. You don't really need to do complex things. So we can just start styling this Shiny app directly in our browser. And then we can, I don't know, maybe change the color of the background. In a second. Yeah, let's select the body, and then you have background color, and then you can put something. Different. We can tweak this thing too, and maybe we want to remove the rounded corners of this box. We can also change the background color to white. Maybe we can have this thing centered. I think this is text align. Yep, we got our text centered, and then we can slowly add a few tweaks that will dramatically improve the appearance of our app. My suggestion is that you talk to a designer, to a friend, to help you out and make some tweaks. Like right before this talk, I talked to a designer, a friend of mine, and she helped me basically tweak this app with custom CSS. So let's see how we can put the CSS directly into our app. Let's go with here. Okay, I'm gonna do this in this way. So I'm just gonna put the CSS directly as a text here. And we can add it as in the tutorials that we saw before, tags. What was it had? I forgot. I forgot how it is that we can do this. So let's just copy paste so we can put some inline styles in there. Okay, this thing right here. Nope, this was not it. So this is one way to add a file, but we will actually want to add inline code like this one that we added before. Okay, but in here we just passed this string that we defined here, CSS. You pass it here. Let's reload. I'm not sure if it worked. Oh yeah, it worked. It's centered. Okay, now let's add a few more things. What I like about this is that I can simply, what I like about putting the CSS like this directly into the code is that I can just refresh in here and it should take the changes. Yep, if I didn't. Okay, it should show the changes here. Not sure if it's working now. But yeah, you get the idea of how we can style the apps. Then, cool. We are running a bit late with time, so let's see the example that the very same shiny histogram example that I did with the help of my friend designer, and it looks quite different and more appealing than the usual shiny that were Shiny tutorial, and it's just basically changing a few things, like removing the numbers here, changing text sizes of the text, moving up and down different values, and this is how you will do this in CSS. I'll show you quickly, like here. You can hide things using this is like say if I select this and go with display none, I can just hide it, right? And I can show it and hide it with CSS. And this is like a nice way to personalize your Shiny apps. You just go deep into CSS and start tweaking your elements. This is like the very same Shiny input selector, but it looks different from this other app. See the difference? But it's basically the same element. So that's how you can use CSS to style your apps. Okay, any questions so far? Good, so let's go with the last part, like last interactive part of this workshop. And let's talk a bit about JavaScript. Okay, the easiest way to get started with JavaScript in Shiny, I advise you to Google Shiny.js. This is a package built by Natalie. And it will get you started easily with JavaScript. So that's how I personally got more acquainted with JavaScript, or I started learning JavaScript. I didn't know anything about JavaScript before. And then you can use this package to do some basic JavaScript interactions that as you use it, you will have the need to learn a bit more, and then you will get better and better with JavaScript. So why is JavaScript important? Because JavaScript provides the way to perform any interaction with web pages. So it's useful if you want to tweak some interactions that don't come out of the box with Shiny. Then it's useful for creating Shiny inputs, as I showed before. You can tweak all the inputs and basically create your own. The thing is that JavaScript everywhere, and that's the language of the browser. So any type of interactivity, it's actually done by JavaScript. And so a very nice way to get advantage of all the data world from R is to interact via the browser. And so learning JavaScript is a very good skill or asset for you. Good. So you can just use Shiny.js, and it will get you there by doing simple things like showing and hiding stuff, and then later building your own JavaScript functions and incorporating them into the Shiny apps. And then later you can get deeper building custom Shiny inputs. Okay, so let's quickly look at some examples of Shiny.js. We have our histogram app. So the way to use okay, let's go back here. Okay, this is our same histogram example. Right? And if we want to use Shiny.js, we just load it. Then in the UI, we have to use this function, use shiny.js. It basically loads all the JavaScript that's needed in the front end or in the UI of our app. And then in the server, we can start using the different options that shiny.js incorporates. So let's take a look at what it does. This is the documentation, quick start. Use shiny.js, we can add a button. Let's add some button here to our app. And then we do some stuff when we select when people click on our button, we can do like anything, but then in here we will use some shiny.js functions. So this is what you would use like whenever anyone hits a button. Maybe we can just put here let's render some text, and then let's render the value of the button right below the button. So this is text. Okay, let's see if this is running. This is the value of the button. When I click, it goes to 1, and it starts counting every time I click, right? So this is how you would use an action button normally in Shiny. So let's add some interaction. Basically, this Shiny JS function, we can use it to hide elements. So once I click here, this whole thing disappears, right? And it stays there. So the reason this is an ID, like an HTML ID of the element, remember that anything that you put in here when you use Shiny is an ID. So let's run it again. Let's use the toggle function, which basically allows us to like toggle, make it appear and disappear every time I click. Cool. So let's see what's happening here. This is what I mean by the IDs. Remember that this is just an element, but it has the ID text, and this has the ID button, which is important if that's the way we reference different elements. So they have to be unique. That's a common mistake when we have complex Shiny apps, that we sometimes end up having the same ID for different elements of the Shiny app. So you gotta make sure that every time you have different elements. So why will we use this to toggle this if we could use like a conditional panel? The thing is that when you want to do this programmatically, you want to turn on and off a bunch of different things that you want to do, like, I don't know, maybe you have them on a list and then you want to show them quickly. So show them or hide them when they depend on different controls. So that's it's better if you don't have to manually use conditional panels every time, because they can get nested in different ways and complicated ways, basically. Cool. So now we know what we can do with Shiny.js. Let's explore a little bit more.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
When you toggled that button to display that number back and forth in the app,
Yeah.
It added two to that number every time you toggled it. Why does it do that? You know?
So it actually adds 1, but when I click it, it's 1, but it's hidden.
Oh, okay.
When I click again, it's 2.
And how would you change that in the code? Is there a way to not?
No, that's just how the action buttons work.
Okay.
I mean, if you actually needed to show this, then maybe you can show the text like divided by 2, and that should work fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Or if you need it for programming or something, you see.
Mm.
I mean, it works. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's see, do I have any? Yeah, I built this. I just added a few more, another chart and another button to basically do the same thing that I just showed you. But now we have, okay, let me just show this. Let me run this again. Where are you? Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, good. So I have basically a lot of the apps that I showed you before. They have everything like on the app directly. But basically, usually what the best approach is to simply show or hide stuff every time people interact. So we have this simple Shiny app where we have like a control to show the number of bins and some control to show the number of points in this scatter plot. Or yeah, if that makes sense.
We have a question in the chat.
Yes.
How can you turn off auto update of the plot, like the histogram, so that it only generates the plot after clicking a button?
Yes, so that will be with the action button. So you need to put that into an observe, I believe. I always get confused with isolate and observe. But basically reading the documentation of observe and isolate will get you through this. Okay, good. So complex Shiny apps, it's good to have everything in there and you just show them or hide them as you will use them. Then, okay, this is what we had before, and maybe I can use the toggle button. But when I click, let's, okay, when I click, something will disappear, okay, which is basically the second here, the second control here, and the second chart, right? Cool. So if I use the toggle on the other IDs, on the other elements, like the first one is the bins, and the second is the index, the inputs, and the outputs are plot 1 and plot 2. So if I just toggle them every time I click, I get this functionality, right? But now I have the problem that I'm hiding them at the same time. Then, so what I can do now is use the hidden function in the Shiny.js package. So basically, this is in the Shiny.js, and I can basically, like, when the app loads, it hides them automatically. So I'm just hiding the second plot and the second control as the app loads. So the app loads, and then I have this chart. Then I can click again, and I have the second option, right? And this is how we can start building complex interactivity into the Shiny apps. The one that I show you about the survey uses this same approach. Basically, all we have is a bunch of divs with different
elements like pages. Think of them as pages, and then we just show them or hide them as people advance through the questions in the survey. Okay, so this is Shiny.js. Let's go with the advanced part. And we can use Shiny.js to, where is it? Oh, here, extend. So basically, we can use our custom JavaScript code. This is the interesting side of JS. This is how you can get to learn more about how this JavaScript works. So basically, we can have some JS code, which if we don't know JavaScript, you just see this is like something Shiny.js and some function, and then it's something with the body that's some CSS, and then that's a background. So maybe even if you don't know JavaScript, you get some feeling of what this does, which is basically some function to change the body, the CSS color of the background in the body, right? Okay, and then what's cool about this is that, okay, so in the UI, we need to like initialize the function that we just added. So we can use this JavaScript function code directly from R. So let's go, we define this function and we add it to our, to our app. So we can be called from R. So let's see if, what happens here. Let's open this in the browser. Let's take a look at the code. You see, yeah, you see a bunch of new things that we hadn't seen before. You see like this Shiny.js hide, display none, which is basically what we did before. It's just Shiny.js does it for us. Just display none, display, and that's how you can show and hide stuff. Then you see this function that we added, and you see that it's added as a script, as a JavaScript in the script tag. So basically this function, we can use it directly from our HTML, right? And this is what it does. Let's go here, and we can, once people click on the button, we can change the color of the background. So let's go here. And in the same click event that we have for our button, we can just add some color here. Let's see if this works. And once people click, we get to change the red in here, right? So maybe we can just I don't know if this, I forgot if this works. Let's see, let's just generate some. Okay, I have a rainbow. And I can sample just one. Okay, we have a new color every time we click. Let's try. And there we have it. Cool. So that's how you can define any JavaScript function. So for you to really take advantage of this, you have to eventually learn a bit of jQuery. Basically, this $sign here is a jQuery selector that allows the browser to select the body of the elements and then change the CSS, right? And so, I mean, every time you just try to use it, you will learn, and that's how you can get started incorporating JavaScript into your Shiny apps. Okay, so any questions so far? Okay, so let's continue. We have we can also create some custom inputs like the ones I showed you before, where we have like a color palette, which basically uses some JavaScript library that someone created to have these color palettes, then like a selector or like a predictive search box, or these numeric inputs, or these selectors that work with icons, or these drop-down links. And this is there are a couple of different packages that add some functionality to Shiny inputs. If I recall right, that there's one called Shiny widgets. This is it. So you can use this package if you want to have more like fancy inputs for your Shiny apps. Let's see if my internet helps. And this is the type of inputs that that you can use with this package, like these checkbox or toggle buttons, or different checkboxes, or some like model alerts. Cool. And then we have our own package for these things. It's called Shiny Info, which has all these inputs that I showed you before. If you want to learn more about how to build inputs, and you speak Spanish, we have a Latin art like presentation for the Latin art conference in Spanish that tells you how to build these inputs from scratch. But what you can do is actually go to the code here. Sorry, in here, yeah. Add a data list, and this is like a quick input that features all the elements you need to take into account for building your own Shiny input. This is for a Shiny input that actually makes like a predictive text search when you type something. It's like a selector, but you can with predictive functionality that comes out of the browser.
So we have a question.
Yes.
Could you share how you might allow the user to select graphics or icons instead of a list of choices under select input?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. The commenter said they believe that you did this on one of your websites that you shared earlier in the presentation.
Yes, correct. Let me show you an example. This is so our package is called Shiny Info, and then you have button image input. That's the one you should use, and then you have an input ID, a label, and a list of images with links to, with the paths of the images you want to use. So it's as simple as that. It's just like a select input, but instead you also add some image buttons, so some image paths that you can want to use in your app. Let me show you a quick example of one of those, how they work. So we have one of our apps is for reading PDFs from texts. Let me go here. And if you simply call this button image input, that's all you need. You will have like a button that works with like a selector that works with images. And here is an example of an app that basically you upload some file. Let's see if it loads. But let's try to use this thing in the app that we had before. And then in here, you will just, if I had some images, I will just have my image PNG and image PNG too. That will be how you will use this input. And you have the selector of
So we upload some PDF, and if this thing loads at some point, I think I took a longer PDF. You get the images here that you can click to see them all. But okay. Good. More questions? Okay. So where was I? Okay, yeah, the inputs. When you create inputs, you have to you get whatever you can read with the input something. See, so like if I create an input, then I can read like the images that are clicked via input and the ID of the element I created. But yeah, I advise you, this will be like a full workshop on how to build this thing. So I'm gonna skip it, but leave this link right here for you to take a deeper look. And the best way to learn about this is actually going directly into some other packages that have built them, like this Shiny widgets or our own Shiny info, for you to see how they are built. Like input image, like the button image input, and then you see how they're built. You need to add some JavaScript if you need them, and so forth. So you get to learn how you can build your own. You can just copy paste one of those and start tweaking them. And then finally, to close our session, I guess the last 5 or 10 minutes before we leave, talk a bit about Shiny HTML widgets. So a lot of the Shiny apps that I showed you at the beginning, they use HTML widgets to help. Sorry, this is wrong link. Let's go. Good. HTML widgets, these are like JavaScript libraries that you can use as data visualizations directly in your Shiny apps. So like these leaflet maps, or I mean, that you can also use in your reports, but they are pretty handy in Shiny apps because you can also use them as inputs. So let's take a look. So we did this also Shiny app. To visualize all the like a census of trees in the city in Bogota, and it's there are like 1 million trees, and we build a Shiny app to explore them all. So what you see here, well, this thing loads because it's a lot of data. It's a custom HTML widget that allows you to click on a map of Bogota, of the districts of Bogota. So you see here custom loaders, a custom leaflet map, and what we have here is an HTML widget that you can also use as an input. So if we click here, all the data gets updated. What we see here, as I showed you before, we can include basically anything that can be put into an HTML, which that includes like iframes of any type. So in here, we have the map of trees in Bogota, but we also have, we made these recordings of citizens that were telling stories about some trees in Bogota. And then this person will send us an audio file or via WhatsApp. And then we will upload this to SoundCloud and get the iframe of the SoundCloud and put it inside our Shiny app. So people, you can hear some stories of people in Bogota talking about some trees in the city. As I was saying, we can just use this to filter our maps. So we just click here, and then we, with Shiny inputs, input on change inputs or whatever, I always forget, I don't have to Google it. We get to create our own filters with the very same data visualizations. So it's a very interesting way not only to visualize data, but creating more interactivity in your Shiny apps. Okay, good. So we can send messages from Shiny and use them as click events, as I showed you in the app before. And again, HTML widgets will be a full topic for a whole workshop, but I thought it would be interesting for you to know that they exist and that you can actually use them inside your Shiny apps, not only for visualization, but also for inputs. Quick tips: you can, if you don't want to use Bootstrap, you can suppress it with this function. What it does is removing all the. So if we run this app, what did I do here? If we run this app and we take a look at the code, we've seen already a few times today that in the code we see a lot of Bootstrap code in here, right? So sometimes if you like copy paste some CSS or copy paste some JavaScript library from whatever, it may clash with the default Bootstrap classes that they have. So it's a good idea to remove them, and the way to remove them is you just add suppress dependencies Bootstrap, and it should run without the Bootstrap dependencies. And you see that now our layout is screwed, but now we have a clean HTML for us that doesn't have a Bootstrap anymore, so we can work on our Shiny app with our very custom things. And yep, Shiny input change. I'm not sure at this point if this is the right function name, but basically this is the way for you to send messages from Shiny HTML widgets directly to your Shiny apps as inputs. And yep, that's it. So gracias. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, or yeah, whatever doubts or any additional tips or hints or doubts you have, just ask.